Before we begin, if you have ever looked at someone and quietly thought, I should not be feeling this, then this story is for you. There is a special kind of pain that comes with loving someone you have told yourself you cannot have. It does not knock loudly. It moves in quietly like fog at night, slow and soft, until one day you realize it has been there all along. That is how it started for Elias, not with fireworks,
Hey, you
not
must
with
be
a
Alex.
big dramatic
Sorry I'm
moment.
late. No worries,
It started
man.
with a
Nice to meet you.
Craigslist
Me
ad,
too.
a small apartment, and a man named Marco who laughed like life owed him nothing and somehow made Elias feel the same way.
So, what's new with
This
you?
is the story of
Not
two
much,
men,
just
one
enjoying the
bed,
sun.
and the 2
It
moment
is
that
beautiful
changed
out.
everything.
I swear, every time I
Get
come here, the
comfortable.
coffee's
This
better.
one is worth your
Right?
time.
And the company isn't bad
Elias
either.
Vance had
High praise.
exactly $47 in his bank account. He was 26 years old. It was almost midnight. He sat at his kitchen table in his small Brooklyn apartment, staring at his phone like the numbers might somehow change. They did not. He was a graphic designer and a good one, but work had been slow for 3 months. Rent was due in 9 days. His landlord Gerald had no patience and no sympathy. The apartment was a 1-bedroom on the 4th floor, nothing fancy. The bathroom tiles were a little crooked. The kitchen faucet dripped at night, but the bedroom window faced west, and every evening around 5 o'clock the most beautiful
This smells
golden
amazing
light
already.
came pouring in.
Yeah, just needs a
Warm,
bit more time.
soft, like
Taste?
the apartment
Sure,
was
let's
telling him
see.
everything would be okay.
This is
He
really
had fallen
good.
in love with this
Yeah, it
place
is.
because of that
Perfect
light.
for this weather.
Now he was about to lose it.
I really
So at
appreciate you being here.
11:47 that
Of course.
night,
I'm
before good
always here for
sense
you.
could stop
That
him,
means
he
everything.
typed out a roommate ad and posted it online. Roommate needed, 1 bedroom in Brooklyn. Sharing the room means splitting the rent in half. I am clean, quiet, and easy to live with, looking for the same. He went to bed. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, then sleep finally came. The replies came overnight. The next morning, Elias read through them with coffee in hand. Most were strange, some
can't
were
sleep.
suspicious.
My mind won't
A few
stop.
asked
Me
too many
neither.
questions about
being
his
here
schedule
helps.
and none about the apartment. He was about to give up when he saw one message, sent at 6 in the morning, that made him stop. Hi, my name is Marco. I am a freelance musician and part-time barista. I keep odd hours. I am clean and respectful.
I feel so
know
calm,
this
it's
setup
surprising.
is a little unusual,
fear,
but I
just
am
peace.
a good person. I can prove that over coffee if you want. No pressure either way. It was those last 4 words, no pressure either way,
I've been thinking
that made
about what you
Elias
said.
write back.
Yeah?
Coffee
It's been
Thursday,
on my
the
mind
cafe
too.
on
I
Nostrand
appreciate
Avenue.
that.
Marco arrived 7 minutes late. He came through the cafe door slightly out of breath, a guitar case on his back, dark hair falling across his forehead. He was taller than Elias expected. His skin was warm brown like late afternoon sunlight. His eyes were so dark they seemed to pull in the light around them. He wore an olive jacket over a white shirt that
This
had a
smells
small
amazing
paint stain
already.
near the collar,
Yeah?
a detail
Wait till you
he
taste
clearly
it.
had no
Hey,
idea
watch
about.
it. Love you too.
He spotted Elias, raised one hand in a simple wave, and smiled. The smile did something to Elias' chest that he did not
This is
want
so
to examine
cozy.
too
I'm so happy
closely,
right now.
so he didn't.
Me too. It's
Sorry,
perfect
the
with the snow
subway,
outside.
Marco started. It's fine, Elias said. Marco sat down, looked around the cafe with open curiosity, then looked at Elias the same way, like he was actually interested, like he genuinely wanted to know. So, Marco said, why does someone post a roommate ad at midnight? Elias blinked. That's your first question. Honesty saves time. Something loosened in Elias' chest just a little. Rent went up, work got slow, I had to be practical. He paused. You. Marco held his coffee mug with both hands. My last roommate's girlfriend moved in without asking. Very sweet story for them, very difficult for me. He said it without any bitterness, which somehow made it funnier. They talked for almost 2 hours. They talked about music and design, about what it feels like to love your work on the
Hey, you
days
must
it
be
loves
Alex.
you back,
Sorry
and
I'm
the
late.
long
No worries,
stretches when
man.
it
Nice to
doesn't.
meet you.
About
Me
New
too.
York and how the city can feel like the center of the universe one morning and completely cold and indifferent by evening.
So, what's
Then
new
Marco
with you?
set down his cup
Not
and
much,
said,
just
I
enjoying
want to
the
be
sun.
upfront about
It
something
is
not
beautiful
related
out.
to the
I
apartment.
swear, every
so
time I
there's
come
no
here, the
awkwardness
coffe's
later.
better.
I'm gay.
Right?
I'm
And the
totally
company isn't
relaxed
bad either.
about the
High
sleeping
praise.
arrangement if you are. Elias, who was also gay and who had absolutely no plan to share that with a stranger at a first meeting because he was a quiet and private person, felt the world tilt slightly to one side. I'm not weird about it, Elias said. Marco nodded once, calm, easy. Then I think this could work. He held out his hand. Elias shook it. Marco's grip was warm and firm, friendly, nothing more. Walking home afterward, Elias thought about the paint stain on Marco's collar, about the way he had said I'm gay like it was just weather, simple and true. He told
This
himself
smells
it was
amazing
just
already.
nice to meet someone
Yeah,
easy
just
to
needs a
talk
bit more
to.
time.
He was
Taste?
already
Sure,
wrong
let's
about
see.
that. Marco arrived
This
the
is
following
really good.
Saturday with 2 duffel
Yeah, it is.
bags, a
Perfect for
guitar,
this weather.
a small keyboard, a box of old vinyl
I
records,
really
and
appreciate
one
you
framed
being here.
photograph.
Of course.
His
I'm always
grandmother's
here for
flower
you.
garden
That
in
means
Mexico.
everything.
He set the photo on the bedroom windowsill and looked at it for a quiet moment, the way people look at things they love but cannot return to. Elias had spent the 3 days before Marco moved in reorganizing the bedroom like a man who was completely fine and absolutely not anxious. He had cleared half the closet, adjusted the nightstands so they were even, bought new sheets in a plain, calm gray that said nothing about anything. He told himself
I
this
can't
was
sleep.
just being a
My
good
mind
host.
won't stop. Me
The
neither.
bed was a queen,
being here
plenty
helps.
of room. Elias had slept in it alone for 2 years and had slowly taken over the whole thing the way people do when they have space and no one to share it with. He now pulled himself mentally back to his half, neat and careful, like drawing a line down the middle of a map. Marco
I feel so
walked
calm
in,
and
dropped his
surprising.
bag, looked
No
at the
fear,
bed
just
and
peace.
said, "Good sheets." Gray was a smart choice, very neutral. "Practical," Elias said. "Very practical," Marco agreed,
I've been
and there was
thinking
just
about
the
what you
smallest
said.
flicker of a
Yeah?
smile at the corner
been
of
on
his
my mind
mouth
too.
that made
I
Elias
appreciate
feel, for one brief second, completely transparent. The first week was a quiet negotiation. Marco made coffee every morning at 6 and always left a second cup on the counter without being asked. He had simply noticed in those first few days that Elias only emerged from the bedroom when he smelled coffee. Elias
This smells
started
amazing
buying the
already.
expensive
Yeah?
beans.
Wait till you
Neither
taste
of
it.
them mentioned
Hey, watch it. Love you
Marco
too.
played guitar in the evenings, soft, slow, thoughtful melodies that drifted under the bedroom door while Elias worked. The moment
This
he
is so
realized
cozy.
Elias
I'm so
needed
happy right
quiet to
now.
concentrate,
Me too.
he
It's
switched to
perfect with the snow
headphones without
outside.
being asked. It was the kind of consideration that does not announce itself, it just shows up. Elias, for his part, started cooking real meals twice a week and leaving portions in the fridge. Marco ate them, washed the containers, and once left a sticky note that said only, "The rice was perfect, teach me." Elias smiled at that note for longer than was reasonable. He folded it up and put it in his desk drawer instead of throwing it away. At night, they were careful with each other in the way of two people learning a new choreography, always aware of where the other person was, always adjusting without making a production of it. They both read before sleep. Marco fell asleep faster, his breathing going slow and even within minutes. Elias lay awake longer, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city outside the window, and the simple, steady fact of another person nearby. He told himself it was just nice not to be
Hey, you
alone.
must be Alex. Sorry I'm
told
late.
himself that
No
a lot
worries,
in
man.
those
Nice to
early
meet you.
weeks.
You too.
End of part 1. Next, part 2, the feelings get harder to ignore. A rainy night changes everything,
So,
and Elias
what's
starts
new with
running
you?
from the one
Not
thing
much.
he actually
Just enjoying
wants.
the sun. It
6
is
weeks in,
beautiful
late
out.
October.
I swear, every time
The
I come
sky
here,
that
the coffee's
evening
better.
turned the color of
Right?
a bruise
And the
before
company
the
isn't
rain
bad either.
came.
High
The kind of
praise.
storm that rolls in fast and seals the city up tight, streets emptied, windows fogged, the whole world reduced to whatever room you happen to be in. Marco came home at 9:30, damp from the walk from the subway, carrying a grocery bag and looking wrung out in a way he was trying not to show. Elias noticed immediately. He noticed most things about Marco now, which was its own problem. "Bad day?" he asked, eyes still on his laptop screen. Marco set the grocery bag down, pulled out eggs, cheese, a bunch of cilantro. "The venue canceled the gig permanently. They're closing."
This smells amazing already.
Elias looked up. The
Yeah,
one in
just needs a bit more
Williamsburg.
time. Taste?
"Yeah," Marco
Sure,
said
let's
it
see.
simply. No drama, which somehow
This
made
is
it worse.
really good.
"I'm sorry,"
Yeah, it
Elias
is.
said.
Perfect for this weather.
"It's fine. These things happen." He
I
started
really appreciate
opening
you being
cabinets,
here.
moving
Of
with the
course, I'm
focused
always here
energy
for
of
you.
someone
That
who
means
needed to
everything.
do something with his hands. "Do you want huevos rancheros? I make too much food when I'm stressed. It's a whole thing." "I would love huevos rancheros." They cooked together for the first time that night. Marco moved through the kitchen like he had always belonged in it, quick and confident, tasting things off the back of a spoon, adjusting seasoning without measuring anything. He handed Elias things without asking, the wooden spoon, the pan, the lime. Elias, who was a competent cook but not an inspired
sleep.
one, found
My
himself
mind
simply
won't stop.
falling into the rhythm of it,
neither.
moving when Marco
being here
moved,
helps.
stepping aside before Marco even reached for something. The rain came hard while they were eating. It hit the windows in sheets and the apartment felt smaller in a good way, sealed off from everything, warm and private. Marco talked about the venue. How it was
I
one of
feel
the
so
first
calm, it's
places that
surprising.
let him play
No
3
fear,
years
just
ago
peace.
when he had just moved to New York and did not know a single person in the city. He had played to 11 people that first night, 2 of them left in the middle, but the
I've been
owner had
thinking
found
about
him
what you
afterward
said.
and said, "You have
Yeah?
something worth
It's been on
listening
my
to.
mind too.
Come back."
I appreciate that.
That kind of thing stays with you, Elias said quietly. Yeah, Marco said, it really does. They sat at the table long after the food was gone, talking about things they had not had a reason to talk about before, about what had first made them love the work they did, about the particular loneliness of creating things and not knowing if anyone would care,
This smells
about what it
amazing
meant to
already.
choose a life
Yeah?
that looked
Wait till you
uncertain
taste
from
it.
the outside
Hey,
but
watch
felt like
it.
the only
Love you
honest
too.
choice on the inside. At some point, Marco looked at him and asked, "When did you know you were gay? You don't have to answer that."
This is so cozy. I'm so
Elias
happy
thought
right
about
now.
it, not
Me
because
too.
the answer
It's
was
perfect with the snow
complicated,
outside.
but because he wanted to give an honest one. 14, he said. There was a boy in my English class who used to read out loud. I kept telling myself I just admired how he did it. Then one day I realized admiration wasn't the right word. Marco smiled. 12 for me. I watched a movie about a soccer team. I left thinking about one of the boys in the crowd for 3 solid weeks before I understood what that meant. Elias laughed, a real one surprised out of him. A soccer movie. Don't judge me, it was formative. The rain kept falling. They ended up watching something on the laptop at the kitchen table, a quiet, strange film that neither of them could fully explain, but that both of them seemed to feel. Somewhere around midnight, Marco's eyes closed. He fell asleep sitting up, head tilting slowly to one side until it rested lightly against Elias' shoulder.
Hey, you must be
Elias went
Alex.
completely still.
Sorry I'm late. No
He
worries,
did
man.
not
Nice to
move.
meet you.
He barely
You too.
breathed. He sat there in the soft light of the laptop screen with Marco's weight warm against his shoulder and the rain against the
So,
windows, and
what's
he
new with
thought
you?
very clearly,
Not much,
I am
just
in
enjoying
so
the
much
sun.
trouble.
It is
He
beautiful
sat like
out.
that for
I
11
swear,
minutes.
every time
he
I come
counted.
here, the coffee's better.
Then very
Right?
carefully,
And
he
the company
shifted
isn't
just
bad
enough
either.
to ease
High
Marco
praise.
gently to the couch cushion. He pulled the blanket off the back of the sofa and covered him. He stood there for one moment looking down at Marco's sleeping face, open and unguarded in a way it wasn't during the day, and then he went to the bedroom and closed the door quietly behind him. He lay in bed for a long time in the dark. He did not sleep for quite a while. November arrived cold and efficient. Marco got a new gig, smaller venue, but a start. Elias landed a branding contract that kept him working until midnight most nights. They moved around each other with the easy familiarity of people who had learned the shape of each other's needs without having to say so.
This smells
out loud.
amazing already. Yeah,
Marco
just
brought
needs a bit more
Elias
time.
tea during the long
Taste?
work nights
Sure, let's
without
see.
being asked. Elias left
This
the
is
hallway
really
lamp
good.
on when Marco
Yeah,
came
it is.
home late, so
Perfect
he
for
wouldn't
this
have
weather.
to walk into a dark apartment. Small
really
things,
appreciate you
the kind
being
of
here.
care that does
Of
not
course.
ask for
I'm always here for
recognition
you.
because it is
That
not
means
trying to
everything.
get anything back. It just gives. And because of that, because it was so quiet and so constant, Elias found it almost impossible to defend against. His friend Dara saw it immediately. She came over one evening, met Marco briefly in the kitchen, and the moment Marco stepped out to the corner store, she turned to Elias with the calm certainty of someone diagnosing something obvious. You are in love with him.
I can't sleep.
Elias
My
looked
mind
at the
won't
wall.
stop. Me neither.
Elias,
But being here helps.
we have a good arrangement, he said carefully. It works because there are no, because we both understand the. You are in love with him, Dara said again, not unkindly, just clearly. He doesn't feel that way, Elias said. And even if he did, we live
I
together,
feel so calm,
we
it's
share a
surprising.
bed. If something
fear,
went
just
wrong,
peace.
it would destroy everything. The arrangement, the apartment, it would be a disaster. Dara looked at him for a long moment. So
I've been
instead
thinking
you'll
about
just
what you
feel
said.
this way forever and
Yeah?
call it
It's
practical.
been on my mind too.
Elias didn't
I appreciate
answer.
that.
She left before Marco got back. Elias spent the rest of that night sitting across the table from Marco, watching him eat takeout noodles and talk about a chord progression he was working on and thinking, she is right and it does not matter because some things are not worth the risk. He started building walls.
This
Subtle
smells
ones,
amazing
the kind
already.
that looked
Yeah?
like being
Wait till you
busy.
taste it.
He worked
Hey,
longer
watch it.
hours.
Love
He
you
made
too.
excuses when Marco suggested watching something together. He was still friendly, still warm, but he pulled back just enough to create the
This is
kind
so
of distance
cozy.
that
I'm
felt
so happy
from the
right now.
inside like protection.
Me too. It's perfect with the snow
Marco
outside.
noticed. Of course Marco noticed. The man noticed everything. He didn't say anything for a few days, but one night about a week into Elias' quiet retreat, Marco knocked on the bedroom doorframe while Elias was working and said simply, "Did I do something?" Elias kept his eyes on the screen. "What? No, I've just been busy." "Okay," Marco said, and his voice was so careful and so even that it was somehow worse than if he had pushed back. "Marco, it's fine, I just wanted to check." He pulled the door halfway closed, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I don't want things to be weird between us. Whatever it is, we can talk about it or not talk about it, either way." He went back to the living room. Elias sat at his desk and stared at his screen and did not type a single thing for 20 minutes. It was a
Hey, you must be
Tuesday
Alex.
in late November.
Sorry I'm late.
Elias
No worries,
had been
man.
awake
Nice to meet
for a
you.
long time.
Me too.
It happened sometimes. His brain would simply refuse to turn off, looping through worries and unfinished thoughts and the
So,
specific quiet
what's new with
misery
you?
of lying next
Not
to someone
much,
you
just
want and
enjoying the
not
sun.
being able to say
It
so.
is
He
beautiful
lay on
out.
his side of the
I
bed,
swear, every
facing
time
the
I come
wall,
here, the
listening
coffee's
to the
better.
city outside,
Right?
the
And the
radiator
company isn't
ticking,
bad either.
the faint
High
sound
praise.
of a car somewhere on the street below. Marco was asleep beside him, or at least Elias assumed he was. And then, in the dark, he heard Marco's voice, quiet, like he wasn't sure if he wanted to be heard. "Elias." Elias went very still. "Yeah." "You awake?" "Yeah." A pause, just the sound of the radiator. "I lied," Marco said, "earlier about it being fine." Elias said nothing. His heart had started doing something loud and uncomfortable. "I don't know what I did," Marco said, "but whatever it is, I'm sorry because I don't want to lose this. Whatever this is between us."
This
And
smells
I know we
amazing
said
already.
No complications.
Yeah,
I
just
know
needs
that
a
was
bit
the
more
whole
time.
point, but I
Taste?
need you to know
Sure,
that
let's
you
see.
matter to me, not because of the rent,
This
not
is
because
really
of the
good.
arrangement. He
Yeah, it
paused,
is.
"Just
Perfect for
because
this
you
weather.
do." The room was very quiet.
I really appreciate
Elias
you
turned
being
over.
here. Of course. I'm
Marco
always
was
here for
lying
you.
on his
That
side,
means
facing
everything.
him. In the dark, his eyes were open and completely serious. No performance, no deflection, just honesty offered simply without any guarantee of how it would be received. Elias looked at him for a long moment. And then, very slowly, he reached out his hand across the space between them, the neutral space they had both been so careful about for months, and he placed it over Marco's. Marco looked down at
I
their
can't
hands,
sleep.
then
My
back up
mind
at
won't stop.
Elias.
Me neither.
"I'm not pulling
But being
back
here
because you
helps.
did something wrong," Elias said. His voice was low and a little unsteady. "I'm pulling back because I got scared, because I feel something and I didn't know what to do with it, so I decided to protect myself from it." Marco turned his hand over beneath Elias
I feel so
their
calm and
fingers were
surprising.
interlaced.
No fear, just
warm and
peace.
certain. "What kind of something?" Marco asked softly. Elias looked at him, at the face he had memorized without meaning to.
I've been thinking
At the
about what
person
you
who
said.
left coffee on the
Yeah?
counter and remembered
been on my
which
mind
songs
too.
he liked
I
and fell
appreciate that.
asleep in the middle of films and had somehow, without any warning, become the most important part of Elias' daily life. "The kind I can't keep pretending isn't there," Elias said. Marco let out a long, slow breath, like he had been holding it for a very long time. "Yeah," he said, "me too." They lay
This
there
smells
in the
amazing
dark,
already.
face to face,
Yeah?
hands
Wait till
held
you taste
together
it.
in the space
Hey,
between
watch it.
them.
Love you
Neither
too.
of them moved. Neither of them needed to. There was nothing rushed about the moment, nothing desperate. Just two people finally putting down
This is
something
so cozy.
heavy they had
I'm
both
so happy
been
right
carrying
now.
alone for too
Me
long.
too. It's perfect with the snow outside.
The city hummed on. The radiator ticked. Inside the apartment, inside that small, west-facing bedroom with the second-hand furniture and the framed photograph of a garden in Mexico on the windowsill, something quiet and real and long overdue had finally, gently begun. End of part 2. Next, part 3, the morning after, the honest conversation they have been avoiding and the ending they both finally choose. Elias woke up first. For a moment, before full consciousness arrived, he was aware only of warmth, the particular, specific warmth of another person close. Then memory came back, quiet, not jolting, and he opened his eyes. Marco was still asleep beside him, facing the same direction. Their hands were no longer intertwined. At some point in the night, they had shifted into the easy, unconscious
Hey, you must be
positions
Alex.
of sleep.
Sorry I'm
but
late.
Marco's
No
arm
worries,
was
man.
resting
Nice to meet you.
alongside
Me too.
Elias, close enough that Elias could feel the warmth of it without them quite touching. The morning light was coming through the
So,
west
what's
window
new
at a
with you?
low winter
Not
angle,
much, just
pale
enjoying
and
the sun.
silver. The
It
room
is
looked different in
beautiful
it than it did
I
in
swear,
the
every
gold of
time
the
I come here, the
afternoon.
coffee's better.
Quieter,
Right?
more honest
And the company isn't
somehow.
bad either. High praise.
Elias lay still and looked at the ceiling and took stock. He was not panicking. That surprised him. He had expected to wake up in a spiral, cataloging all the reasons last night was a mistake, rehearsing the careful words that could walk things back to something safe and manageable. That was what he usually did when something scared him. He retreated, he reorganized, he made things sensible again. But lying there in the pale morning, he found that the panic simply was not there. What was there instead was something much quieter, something that felt, if he was being very honest with himself, like relief. Marco stirred, his breathing
This smells
changed.
amazing
Then
already.
he opened his
Yeah,
eyes and
just
looked
needs a
at
bit more
Elias,
time.
and the first thing
Taste?
he did was
Sure, let's
smile,
see.
slow and unguarded.
This
The
is
same
really
smile
good.
from that first day
Yeah,
at
it
the
is.
coffee shop,
Perfect for this
except
weather.
now Elias did not have to pretend it had
I
no
really
effect on
appreciate
him.
you being here. Of
Morning,
course.
Marco
I'm
said.
always here for you.
Morning,
That means
Elias
everything.
said. A short pause, the comfortable kind. So Marco said carefully, that actually happened. It did. Good, Marco said simply, and closed his eyes again for another 30 seconds before sitting up. They had it over breakfast. Not planned, it simply arrived the way honest conversations do, finding the open space between coffee and toast. Marco sat across the table with both
I can't
hands
sleep.
wrapped around
My
his
mind won't
mug,
stop.
and Elias
Me
looked
neither.
at him and thought,
But being here
we should
helps.
probably talk about what this is. We should probably talk, Marco said at the same time. Elias almost laughed, yeah. Marco looked at him steadily. He always did that, looked at you like he had nowhere else to be and nothing more important to think
I
about.
feel so calm, it's
Elias
surprising.
had once found
No
it
fear, just
unnerving.
peace.
Now he understood that it was just how Marco paid attention. I want to be careful with you, Marco said. I don't mean careful like
I've been thinking
tiptoeing
about what
around
you
it.
said.
I mean I want to
Yeah?
do this right.
It's been on
because
my
I
mind
meant
too.
what I said
I
last
appreciate
night.
that.
You matter to me. This isn't a 2M thing that I'm going to need to explain away in the daylight. I know, Elias said. I'm not afraid of the daylight part. What are you afraid of? Elias thought about it honestly. Losing what we have. He gestured vaguely at the apartment, the table, the 2 coffee cups. The easy
This smells
version of
amazing
this,
already.
because it has
Yeah?
been genuinely
Wait till you
good.
taste it.
And sometimes
Hey, watch
when you
it.
reach for more
Love
of
you too.
something good, you end up with less. Marco was quiet for a moment. That's a real fear, he said. I'm not going to tell you it's not. He
This
set
is
his
so
mug
cozy.
down, but I
I'm
think
so
the thing
happy
I
right
keep
now.
coming back to is
Me
I'm
too.
already in
It's
it.
perfect with the
Whatever
snow
I was trying to
outside.
protect myself from by not saying anything, it didn't work. I already feel it. I already care about this. So the risk isn't really about whether we try. The risk was already there. Elias looked at him across the table. At the person who made coffee every morning and left the lamp on and ate whatever Elias cooked and pressed his shoulder against Elias at midnight during a storm and had somehow quietly become the thing Elias looked forward to most in his day. I know, Elias said. I know that. I think I've known it for a while. So what do we do? Elias wrapped his hands around his own mug, took a breath. We try, he said. Carefully, honestly, we talk when things get weird instead of going quiet. He paused. And if it helps, I'm in it too. I'm already in it. Marco looked at him for a moment. Something in his expression shifted, not dramatically, not theatrically, but
Hey,
in
you
the
must
way
be
of
Alex.
someone who has
Sorry
been
I'm late.
holding their
No
breath
worries, man.
and finally
Nice to meet you.
lets it go.
Me too.
Okay, he said. Yeah, that helps. He reached across the table. His fingers found Elias on the
So,
handle of his
what's new
mug,
with you?
warm and deliberate.
much,
Just
just
his
enjoying the
hand
sun.
over Elias.
It is
the same
beautiful out.
gesture as the
I
night
swear, every
before,
time I
but
come
now
here, the
in
coffee's
full
better.
light of morning.
Right?
No
And the
darkness
company
to
isn't
hide
bad
it,
either.
no
High praise.
uncertainty about what it meant. Elias turned his palm up. Marco's fingers settled into the space between his. Neither of them moved for a long moment. Outside, Brooklyn was starting up its ordinary Tuesday sounds, the buses, the voices, the particular music of a city that does not slow down for anyone. Inside the small west-facing apartment on the 4th floor, 2 men sat across a kitchen table holding hands and figuring out together how to be brave. The weeks that followed were different. Not dramatically, not with a sudden change in music and lighting. They were different the way a room is different when you finally hang
This
a
smells
picture
amazing
you have
already.
been meaning to hang
Yeah,
for months.
just needs a bit more
You look up
time.
one day
Taste?
and think,
Sure,
oh,
let's
that's
see.
what was missing. And now that
This
it's
is
there,
really
you cannot
good.
imagine it any
Yeah, it
other
is.
way.
Perfect for this weather.
They were still themselves. Marco
I
still
really
kept
appreciate you
strange
being
hours
here.
and cooked
Of
too
course.
much when he
I'm
was
always here
anxious
for
and
you.
fell
That
asleep on
means
the couch
everything.
during films. Elias still worked too late and needed coffee to become a functioning human and worried quietly about things he did not always know how to say out loud. Those things did not change. But the distance changed. Marco would stop behind Elias' chair sometimes when he was working, drop his hands onto Elias' shoulders and read the screen for a moment, say something about the design, always something genuinely useful, never flattery, and then go back to what he was doing. And Elias, who used to
can't
flinch
sleep.
slightly when
My
touched
mind won't
unexpectedly,
stop.
found
Me
that his
neither.
body had simply
But
stopped
being here
bracing for
helps.
it, had learned to expect it, had started without consciously deciding to, leaning back into it slightly. Elias went to Marco's next gig, stood at the back of the small venue with a drink he barely touched and watched Marco perform for the first time. watched him sit on a stool under a single light with a guitar across his knee
I
and
feel so
become, in a
calm
way
and
that was hard to
surprising.
explain,
No
completely
fear, just
himself,
peace.
open and focused and present in a way that was different from the Marco who moved around the apartment, more concentrated somehow, more visible. Afterward,
I've been
Marco
thinking about
found
what
him
you
at the
said.
bar. He was
Yeah?
flushed from the
It's been on my
performance,
mind
and there
too.
was a
I
light in his
appreciate that.
eyes that Elias wanted very much to always be there. Well, Marco said. You're good, Elias said simply. You're really good. Marco looked at him for a moment. You stayed the whole time. Of course I did. Something passed through Marco's expression then, something that had the particular softness of
This
being
smells amazing
surprised by
already.
a kindness
Yeah?
you had hoped
Wait till you
for,
taste
but not
it.
quite
Hey,
expected.
watch it.
He reached
Love you
out
too.
and took Elias' hand, right there in the middle of the bar, in full view of everyone, easy as breathing. Elias
This
held
is
on.
so cozy. I'm so
It was
happy right now.
December, a Friday
too.
evening.
It's perfect with the snow
apartment
outside.
smelled like the candles Elias had bought on impulse from a street vendor, and Marco had insisted on burning immediately because, he said, buying candles and not burning them was a form of sadness. They were cooking together, the thing they did now on Friday nights, the thing that had become its own quiet ritual. Music playing from Marco's phone on the counter. Elias chopping vegetables. Marco at the stove, tasting and adjusting. Bumping into each other in the small kitchen and not moving away, both of them having stopped pretending weeks ago that the contact was accidental. At some point, Elias looked up from what he was doing and found Marco already looking at him. What? Elias said. Nothing, Marco said. I'm just, he paused, then simply, I'm really happy right now. I wanted to say that out loud. Elias set down the knife. He looked at Marco, at this man who had shown
Hey,
up
you must
late
be
to
Alex.
a coffee shop
Sorry I'm
with a
late.
guitar
No
on
worries,
his
man.
back
Nice
and
to
a
meet you.
paint stain
Me too.
on his shirt, and had proceeded with absolutely no apparent effort to become the best thing in Elias' life. Me
So,
too, Elias
what's
said.
new with
I'm
you?
really happy too.
Not much. Just enjoying the
Marco
sun.
smiled
It
wide
is
and
beautiful
warm
out.
and completely
I swear, every
unguarded.
time I come here,
He
the
crossed
coffee's
the
better.
small distance
Right?
between them,
And the
put
company
one
isn't
hand
bad
against
either.
Elias'
High
jaw
praise.
and kissed him slow and certain with the same quality as everything else Marco did, fully present, nothing held back. Elias reached up and held the front of Marco's shirt in both hands and kissed him back, and felt every careful wall he had built over the past few years come down with the quiet, gentle ease of something that had never really needed to be there. The food burned slightly, they did not mind. By the time January came, the apartment had changed. Or perhaps the apartment was exactly the same, and what had changed was the people inside it. Marco's vinyl records lived on the bookshelf now, mixed in with
This smells
Elias'
amazing
design
already.
books.
Yeah,
There were
just
two
needs a bit
guitar
more time.
picks on the kitchen
Taste?
windowsill
Sure, let's
that
see.
Elias kept putting in a small
This
dish
is
because
really
he liked
good.
them being there.
Yeah, it is. Perfect for
Photograph
this
of the
weather.
grandmother's garden in Mexico still stood on the
I
bedroom
really
windowsill,
appreciate you being
but
here.
now there was a
Of
second
course.
photograph
I'm always
beside
here
it.
for you.
One Dara
That
had
means
taken
everything.
without telling them at a small dinner party in November. The two of them side by side on the couch, Marco mid-laugh at something. Elias watching him with an expression that made it extremely clear, in retrospect, that he had been in love for longer than he had admitted. When Elias saw that photo for the first time, printed and framed, he had looked at his own face in it and thought, how did I ever think that wasn't obvious? The rent was still the same, the apartment was still small,
can't sleep.
the
My
kitchen
mind won't
faucet
stop.
still dripped
Me neither.
occasionally at night,
being here
the
helps.
tiles in the bathroom were still slightly uneven. And every afternoon around 5 o'clock, the golden light still came through the west-facing window and filled the apartment with something that felt every single time like a quiet kind of promise.
I
One
feel so
evening in
calm and
January,
surprising.
Elias was
No
sitting
fear,
at his
just
desk
peace.
working a real project, a good one, the kind that had started coming in more regularly now that he had stopped using his energy to carry something heavy and alone.
I've been thinking about what you
Marco
said.
came up behind him,
Yeah?
same as he did
It's been on my
sometimes,
mind too.
and rested his
I
chin
appreciate
on top of Elias' head and looked at what was on the screen. That's beautiful, Marco said, the color palette. Thank you, Elias tilted his head back to look at him upside down. You're blocking my light. You have plenty of light, Marco said. He did not move. You have, objectively, the most light of anyone I know.
This smells amazing
Elias
already.
laughed. He
Yeah?
took Marco's
Wait till you
hand,
taste
which
it.
was resting
Hey,
on
watch
his
it.
shoulder, and held
Love
it
you too.
there. Outside, the city kept going. Inside the small apartment on the 4th floor, the one that smelled like candles
This is
and
so
someone
cozy.
else's
I'm so
coffee
happy right
beans
now.
and occasionally
Me too.
burned toast,
It's perfect with the
two
snow
men
outside.
had found in the most unexpected way exactly what they had needed. Not a perfect arrangement, not a fairy tale. Just two people honest with each other choosing to stay. And on the windowsill, in the last gold of the afternoon light, the photograph of a grandmother's garden stood next to a photograph of two men on a couch, one of them laughing, one of them looking at him like he was the most interesting thing in any room. Like he had been from the very beginning, worth every complicated, terrifying, wonderful feeling.